Well. Hey there, fellow tennis lovers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this fantastic episode of Tennis Bytes. So, we have a lot of ground to cover, especially that we are now into the final stages of the season. I am Bhushan, and with my witty brother Aadish, today we'll dive into a few things: Djokovic's stance on retirement, why Alcaraz may not win the Nitto ATP World Tour Finals. Finally, what's up with fatigue and scheduling? So much talk but no action. And what's up with Nick? We'll have a small discussion around that. Let's get started. And if you are watching this and haven't subscribed yet, please do, as we have so much exciting content coming up. You don't want to miss out on that, do you? If you have subscribed already, hit the like button. This helps us immensely. Thanks so much, and let's begin. So, Adish, I want to start with the Joko retirement first. It's not retirement really, but Djokovic has expressed his desire to continue playing as long as he's considered to be the main man at tournaments. And just to quote, he says that as long as I am, the main contender for the Grand Slams and win the biggest tournaments in sport, I will not leave. I mean, unless mentally something happens and really I have no motivation anymore. But that's not the case for now. So, what's your opinion on this? Should players leave when they are at their highest point, or Joko way is the right way to do it?
So first of all, if at all Djokovic is going to watch this podcast, I don't think he'll like fans like us talking about his retirement. So that is one thing. But coming back to your question, we have heard it many times over the past 20-25 years that an athlete should retire at
Yeah.
the top, right?
Yeah.
Now there is a lot of debate around it. Not many agree to it, some agree to it. I don't think there is any right or wrong answer to this question. But Djokovic has had a phenomenal year. He has played
Yeah.
all four Grand Slam finals. He has won three of them. So if the argument that he should retire at the top is what is in play here, I
Yeah.
feel he has been on top of the ATP and the tennis for 13 years now. So any time during the past 13 years could have been right for him to retire. If you're talking about his age, then a couple of I guess a decade ago 30 was supposed to be like, you're finished.
Yeah.
you
The
you,
age,
you
upper
start going
limit.
downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like the twilight of your career at 30, and now Djokovic is 36, is pushing 37, and he has
Yeah.
won 3 out of 4 grand slams. He is still the favorite at every grand slam he goes into. He is the favorite at the Nitto ATP World Tour finals.
Yeah. And
So
we see so many memes of his photos winning Wimbledon 2050, winning US Open
right,
2050. It's
right.
absolutely crazy about his longevity, and people have paid attention to that by coming up with these memes.
Right. But see, for from a fan's perspective, I am a tennis lover. I have played some decent tennis in my capacity. So for me, what I think is he will really push for the Paris 2024 Olympics, because
Ah,
an
yeah,
Olympic
yeah.
gold medal
It's
is the
just a year away.
only thing that is missing from his. I don't know. He must have what, like a mansion filled with trophies, probably some, thousands of trophies. He has 24 grand slams. He has
Yeah,
countless 1000 masters, 500 masters. He must have had a lot of 250 challenger titles
yeah,
before he became a professional. So the Paris 2024 is definitely going to be one of his major goals now. Andre Agassi is the only player who has completed the
yeah,
career super slam. Is that right? Is that what they
yeah,
call
yeah,
it?
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
believe so. Yes.
Yeah,
And
where
I
you
was
have
just
to win
thinking when you
all four
mentioned
grand
about
slams,
trophies
you have to win
that
all four grand slams, you have to win the Olympic gold medal, and you have to win the ATP World Tour finals.
yeah,
So
yeah,
Agassi is the only player to have done that so far in ATP.
yeah,
So as far as the Grand Slam records go, he is already at 24. And I'm sorry to all the media out there, but when you say that he has equaled Margaret Court's record, it is just incorrect. Right now, he is the player with the most number of Grand Slams. Margaret Court won 11 of her Grand Slams before the Open era. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that doesn't really count. So one pinnacle he has already scaled. He is the player with the highest number of Grand Slams. He will be the player with the highest number of Grand Slams, men and women, for maybe 50 years to come. So that
yeah,
is done.
yeah,
And I think the Paris 2024 is going to be his realistic goal now. The only thing that is missing from his cabinet. But coming back to his retirement, I feel a couple of years down the line, he he will struggle to be the favorite at every tournament. No matter how great he is, age
yeah.
is going to catch up with him.
2 years
And
is a
at
big
that,
time, though. 2 years is a
y-
very big time.
yeah, but I think at that time he will probably go through a phase where he's struggling to reach every final, every semi final. And at
Yeah.
that moment, if he manages to win a Grand Slam on pure experience, talent, skill, grit, whatever you call it, then I feel that would be a moment where you can say he should retire at the top.
Yeah.
When he is not at his best, when he is not the favorite at every tournament he goes to, right now it just feels like everybody is competing to lose to Djokovic in the finals. I'm sorry to say that, but it just feels like the competition is who is going to be the finalist at the next Grand Slam.
Yeah, when you mentioned about trophies, I was just thinking where must have he kept his trophies? Is it in his academy? Has he bought a new home for that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He must have bought a new home for that. Definitely, he must definitely have a few rooms dedicated to his trophy collection. It's huge, it's vast, and
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
them are special. Most of them are special.
Yeah, yeah. And we had one discussion with Milos, who was a part of the Djokovic Academy for some time, and we saw some good photographs. I'm not sure if we saw a trophy cabinet photograph there, but hopefully we'll get to know.
Yeah, must be, it must be his private space. So I guess nobody is
So he
allowed to
wants to motivate kids,
invade
right?
into
So
his
he must
private
show
space.
off his trophies. That's probably a good intention to do that.
Right.
Cool. But yeah, finally, I think as the sports science grows, as a lot of things are growing, the retirement age, people are pushing the retirement age. Obviously, we saw it with Federer. We are looking at it with Messi and Ronaldo in football. So it's kind of a global phenomenon. Let's see where it goes. But at this age, when Djokovic is really trying to compete for the best athlete on the planet, not the tennis player, I would say, it seems that whatever he feels should be respected and should be right as well. Cool. So moving on, let's switch gears and talk about the next most talked about person in tennis, Carlos Alcaraz, and why Alcaraz may not win the Nitto ATP World Tour finals. So picture this, right? Carlos Alcaraz, the rising star, fresh of his victories at Queens and Wimbledon. But wait, there's a twist, right? It's not a smooth sailing from that point anymore. So what do you think? Somebody told Alcaraz, "Hey Carlito, what are you doing? You're winning every tournament. You played on grass and won that too. Take a chill pill, bro." Is that something that he keeps in his mind now?
I don't know if he has been told to slow down, or he's deliberately done that. But I think he is at the receiving end of a lot of unfair criticism. He's only 20 years old. Even the great Rafael Nadal, at the age of 20, when he was touted as the king of clay, had a lot of problems at 1000 Masters. Dude, come on. If you look
Yeah.
at Rafa's record, especially on the hard courts at 1000 Masters, uh, it wasn't great,
Yeah.
to say the least. He has struggled a lot against a lot of not so known players. Uh, he has never managed to win the ATP World Tour Finals, which is just, I mean, it's shocking. And the reason I want to compare Alcaraz to Rafael Nadal is because Rafael Nadal is what Alcaraz will eventually aim to become, right? He's only 20
Yeah.
years old. Both come from Spain, so obviously there is that mutual respect over there. Both
Yeah.
have a game which is suitable actually for clay. Although Alcaraz has won a tournament on hard as well as
Yeah.
grass,
Yeah.
but both are clay specialists. So I think he's just at the uh, end of a lot of unfair criticism. He needs
Yeah.
some time to grow. Uh,
People need to take a chill pill.
yeah, and come on, yeah, he's playing with the likes of Novak Djokovic. He's competing with Novak Djokovic pretty much every tournament.
Yeah.
We tend to forget many a times that players like Medvedev, players like Rublev, players like Zverev. These are all really good, well-established players. Not
Respect that.
going to, they're not going to let Alcaraz get away every time, right? Even Medvedev is a Grand Slam champion. He's been in the top five for what now, 5 years? So that's not an easy feat. I think we, as fans, tend to underestimate what a great achievement it is to be consistently in the top 10.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of champion like qualities to be there. It's it's an impossible thing. We just, because we are comparing everything with what Djokovic has done, in hindsight it feels like, Medvedev has only won one Grand Slam. It's not one Grand Slam, dude. It's one Grand Slam, and he's been in the top 10 for so long. And Carlos Alcaraz is 20 years old. He's competing with some of the best players in the world who have been consistently in the top 10 for a while now. So of course he's going to get challenged every now and then.
And he just lost
And to
to only
Alcaraz,
Medvedev and Sinner, right? It's not a big deal. They are the
no, he
top
even
five
lost to,
guys. Yeah, he also lost to Safiolin in
correct. So
Paris.
lost to
Yeah.
Saifulin, right? So I think a lot of big deal is being made out of it. He's just a 20-year-old guy who has an incredible talented game, and it'll take him some time to become a consistent performer like Djokovic or Nadal.
Yeah.
So I
It
think I
will
think
take
this is just,
some time. He has a good sense of humor. I think everything is fantastic about him.
so the
Just that,
only concern I personally have is the excruciatingly physical game that he plays. So I
yeah,
don't know how long he can continue playing this. The only exception is the great Rafael Nadal, who managed to play such a physical game for 20
yeah,
years. He came back from four major injuries. So I don't know everybody is up to it or not, especially
yeah.
Alcaraz,
I
because,
think with
yeah, the graphs
increasing
are quite
sports
similar
science,
for now.
you never know. Sports science becoming better. We also criticize Rafa for that type of game, but he has managed to do well. Maybe Alcaraz will have the right team, the right coaches, your favorite coach,
Yeah,
uh,
Juan Carlos
Juan
Ferrer.
Carlos.
Right.
So hopefully he'll navigate through these tough waters. But surely, I would say that he had a fantastic year. Looking forward to the ATP World Tour Finals. But another question I want to bring up here is there is a lot of data analysis that's being done on his game and how he lost to Sinner, how he lost to Medvedev, how he lost to Dimitrov. So, what do you make of all the data that is flooding the internet?
Okay, so my point of view here is that uh, I personally feel that Alcaraz, Sinner, maybe a Casper Rudd. Then we also have players like Rune in the mix, who hasn't actually performed that well this year. But if we talk about the younger crop of players, I personally feel game wise, all these are at the same level, similar level. The only difference is in the mentality. Only Alcaraz seems to believe that he can actually defeat Djokovic.
Yeah,
Whereas the other players, I don't think they have gotten over that mental block that they can actually challenge the likes of Djokovic and Nadal if he makes a comeback. So I think here Alcaraz should get the benefit rather than getting criticized for losing to a Sinner, losing to a Dimitrov, or losing to I don't know, whoever he lost to, because we have seen Sinner struggle against Djokovic. We have seen Rudd Sinner against Djokovic, and at the same time, Alcaraz is the only player who defeated Novak Djokovic at the Wimbledon finals
yeah,
in the
yeah.
fifth set. So psychologically and mentally, Alcaraz is the only player who has managed to. believe or bluff himself that he can defeat Djokovic successfully.
Yeah, and he's
So
so
I
frank. He also played a practice set with Djokovic at Paris, and also said that he lost that practice set, and he's not that ready or not that in great form. But he takes it up with Djokovic, be it practice or be it the match, which is so good for everybody to see. Even the practice
right.
set got recorded, got so many views. That's the great fan base that everybody's having.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, from that front, I think I personally feel that too much is getting made of the data. It's just a couple of off days, if we want to say that. Also, I would think fatigue is a factor. Eventually, now we are coming to the end of the season, and obviously, that is our third point, which we want to discuss. So yeah, that brings us to our third point, which is about fatigue and scheduling and whatnot. The ATP players have complained, even the WTA players. So much is being discussed about fatigue, about scheduling, but little is happening on the ground. Looks like a political party giving its assurances, but nothing happening on ground. So, how do you take this into consideration going forward?
Well, I don't know, but Djokovic has definitely complained about it many a times. Uh, Andy Murray and Wawrinka have complained, especially at the Australian Open, regarding the late night finishes. That how it's great for the crowd, but
Yeah,
it becomes really difficult for the player to recover after you finish a match at say 3 a.m. in the morning. It's
and
inhuman, to be honest.
no,
And
the very latest example of Sinner pulling out is the evidence to that, right?
yeah,
So late
yeah,
night finishes has become a norm. So
yeah,
Sinner wants to be ready for ATP finals as well as Davis Cup, and hence conceded the match. But more interestingly, I thought fellow players like Casper Ruud has publicly supported him and blasted the ATP tour. So I want to quote. He says, "Bravo at ATP Tour. Way to help one of your best players in the world recover and be ready as soon as possible when he's just finished his previous match at 2:37 a.m. in the morning,
right.
giving him just 14.5 hours to recover. What a joke."
Well, it definitely is a joke. I think some serious action needs to be taken against this, especially because the top players have been complaining about this for a while now.
Mhm.
So something has to be done. I'm not saying the players are entirely right. The ATP schedule and the Grand Slam schedule has been around for many years now, and a lot of players have
Yeah.
completed this so-called grueling schedule so many times. But when you have players of this caliber complaining, I think some note needs to be taken. The fatigue factor is definitely not something to be overlooked. I can say this for
Yeah.
sure.
So you
It is
remember
there.
Wimbledon suffered from similar complaints to start the day early because of the curfew. Matches didn't
Correct.
finish, and then people used to play 3 days, 4 days consecutively. And I don't know what the problem with Wimbledon is. In the
Uh,
name of tradition, they did not allow Federer to come in. In the name of tradition, they did not start the matches early. In the name of tradition, they kept the white clothing, which was not good from a WTA or female player
yeah,
standpoint. So
yeah.
many controversies Wimbledon is trying to produce. Every
So
year, this
many
is
controversies.
going up and above.
Wimbledon, sails through so many controversies, and yet they are still the bloody most prestigious tournament. I just don't understand how they are managing to do this time and again. And Wimbledon, every year they are at the end of some different criticism. This curfew thing was in my at least from what I remember, this is the first time that we are listening about this curfew thing. Before that, I remember every time Wimbledon used to start, rains would play spoil sport, and despite all this, the Sunday holiday was a tradition. So no matter how late everything is going on, Sunday will be a holiday. So I think Wimbledon faces criticism every year pretty much, and they
Yeah,
sail through
just
it.
because
And
probably the love for grass and the way they have projected the tournament, that becomes a dream for everyone.
right, because every
including
kid,
the referees and all the people who participate. So I know
no
personally how
matter what
excited they
happens,
are.
every kid who picks up a racket at the age of 5 says, I want to win the Wimbledon, that is my ultimate dream. So
Yeah, yeah. But I'm sure with and this is a two prong kind of thing, right? Because game is getting so much physical, and we are also not paying attention to scheduling, and this is kind of adding to the woes which already exist. So it's not just the ATP. I remember WTA players also complaining. And once I remember Ostapenko really unhappy with the scheduling because she had just defeated world number one, Iga, and lost in the next round because she didn't have any time to recover. So it's a little bit of crazy. That's what she said. And with more ATP 1000 Masters going from a week schedule to a 2 week schedule, things aren't looking that positive.
that's true. That's a very important point actually. A lot of thousand masters are going into 2 weeks now.
Yeah, and Djokovic already said that there are already Grand Slams. There are already a few tournaments like Miami and Indian Wells who run for 2 weeks. So it's like almost 15 to 20 weeks are getting taken up by these tournaments. Then what will remain, right? But yeah, even in terms of Murray, even in terms of Sabalenka, I think everybody has complained, everybody has views. But I believe it should be an easier thing to resolve, right? Or everybody will participate in tournaments and then just they'll go at the hotel, rest, and maybe concede a few matches here and there. So it will be more around picking and choosing certain tournaments to participate. That might be a good future.
Yes, I think a note of this should be taken, and this is not the ideal way of, when where you have to choose amongst 1000 masters. If you are made to choose amongst 1000 masters, then I don't think it is really healthy. So ATP needs to come up with something so that the workload on the players is reduced by not much, but by 5-10%. I think that should do the trick.
Yes, cool. So finally, moving on to our last point of the day. What's up with Nick? Yeah, our very own Nick Kyrgios.
I don't understand your obsession with Nick Kyrgios, to be honest. I don't understand why you're so obsessed with it. Why so many people are obsessed with Nick Kyrgios? Even Novak Djokovic talks about Nick Kyrgios when he's not even around. I
Yeah,
guess we all just miss the big serve and the underarm serve. That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
bottom
Nick
line.
Kyrgios, Gail Monfils, to some extent Benoit Paire. All these guys are entertaining the crowd, right? But yeah, the story about Nick is that he hasn't played a single. I mean, he has played one tournament but lost in that first round. So essentially, he has 0 points now. But as Nick is, he has publicly made a point clear to everybody that he will use his protected ranking, which will come to a world number 21, and he will use that next season. But you know what? Uh, Even if he doesn't use a protected ranking, nobody can stop him from getting wildcards. And I'm sure you would agree that he can get a plenty of wildcards.
He will definitely get a wild card at the Australian Open. 100%.
No, even
I
at
don't
the
know about the other
thousands, even
slam.
at 500s, even some other Grand Slams, I'm sure people will be willing to give him wildcards.
Yeah, people are willing to pay good money to come and watch Nick Kyrgios. So I'm sure the organizers would be more than happy to give him a wild card.
So, do you think the protected ranking uh, doesn't even make sense when it comes to people like Nick?
Oh wow. I don't know if I have any opinion on this. But being it's not just about playing in the Grand Slam, right? When you are a seeded player, you are guaranteed that you won't play another seed until the round of 32. So I think if you're really serious about tennis, I think using the protected ranking makes sense, because then you're assured that you won't play somebody like Djokovic before the third round at a Grand Slam.
Ah,
And
yeah, yeah. That's a very
if you
valid
want
point.
to, yeah, make it big, yeah. So if you want to make it big, otherwise there is always the possibility that you have to play an Alcaraz or a Djokovic in the first round itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a valid point. I think avoiding the top seeds would be a great option if we opt for protected ranking. So obviously there are some ifs and buts, but yeah, we'll have some separate episode around the protected ranking. Cool. So that's it for the day. I think there are so many topics that we were only able to cover a few. Hopefully, as we get into the final mode, the Nitto ATP finals, we'll have multiple episodes coming your way. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye bye.